Welcome to another session of Technology by Performance. I'm Ken Umansky, your host, for another exploration into the world of technology. Today I have with me Ed Ballou, who spent his career trying to revolutionize technology towards equity and equality for humanity. He's worked as a software developer, software leader, scrum master, and loves coaching and mentoring in agility while delivering great software. Recently has played a major role in the Helium technology movement. Welcome, Ed. You've certainly played a lot of roles in your life, and I know you're an expert in helium technology, so let's talk about helium today. I thought helium was a gas to fill up balloons, but you're going to tell me it's not. You're going to tell me it's something different. So what is helium, and what got you into it?
Sure. So helium is a decentralized wireless network that has been kind of surprising a lot of people in its kind of grassroots momentum by organizing just regular people to deploy hotspots. You can kind of think of them like either personal cell phone towers or routers. By hosting these, then they're able to contribute to a global network so that we can onboard the same sensors almost worldwide with a little nuance for the radio frequencies that they communicate at. But yeah, so I got pulled into it as my COVID hobby. I didn't expect it. Wasn't on the radar for it, but one of my mentors in the Agile space actually got pulled into working with this company, and so I followed him on social media, and so I was like, oh, what is this? What's this crypto stuff? I'd kind of been involved or aware of things for a while, but never really took that leap to get interested in it. And so I was like, well, this sounds interesting. And they were giving away free miners, so I was like, oh, why not? Let's just try this out. I like to learn, try new things rather than just being having an aversion to all things new. I wanted to dive in it myself and see what it was like. So I signed up, and that started the journey.
So tell me a little bit about free miners. What's that all about?
Sure. So they were, in order to get new people into crypto and kind of lower that barrier of cost entry, and also just it being crypto, that they wanted to give away these miners for free. And then the host company would take a portion of those earnings, and then also the company that owned the miners would take the portion, and then the person who hosts would also get a share of those earnings. So that's what I signed up for, and put it in my windowsill, which is what they recommended for to start with, and then started experimenting from there. And eventually, because I live in the suburbs, I looked up the recommendations on putting an antenna on top of your home, and so I did that. And as soon as I did that, man, it was like an explosion. I saw not only my earnings increase, but the coverage was huge. I mean, I live in the Minneapolis area, so I was able to cover well to the north to south, east to west. I mean, almost the entire Minneapolis area out into the suburbs, getting some really long range. And so that was kind of it piqued my interest. And then earnings at the time were pretty low. I think I remember getting in at like $1 or $2 a token. So it wasn't anything big, but then when I started getting all the tokens, it started adding up to like hundreds of dollars. And it's nowhere near that today. And I don't know if it will ever be quite that lucrative, but basically it attracted a lot of attention.
Wait a minute. So you get paid to put an antenna and use this radio frequency unit in your house to basically cover an area. So talk a little bit about that. How do you get paid?
Sure. So it uses crypto as the back end payment mechanism for that. So say I have my miniature tower up, or my antenna on my roof 24/7, and it plays this big giant game of Marco Polo. In order to solve this chicken and egg problem of radio coverage that gets deployed, it has to put the coverage up and then play the game of Marco Polo to listen for each other and sound off against one another to prove that there is coverage going on. And so that's because there were no sensors out there that would generate any of these signals to begin with, so they used the miners to prove out the coverage. And so then by proving that you had coverage, then you would get rewarded in cryptocurrency for the act of, more so for the act of, yes, I heard you, rather than, because they did these things called beacons, where it's basically you play them, the person who says Marco. And so you get paid less for that, and you get paid more for saying Polo, that you've heard it. So that's how. So you get rewarded in cryptocurrency, and then the end game though is to switch over to sensor traffic, so that these different sensors out there that are using, my tower or my antenna, that I would get rewarded with the data transfer that it would cost to for that sensor to emit the data. So it's anywhere from, dog collars, trackers, water sensors, basement, checking for water in your basement. There's all sorts of IoT applications that are out there that people are engaging in, and Helium has done a great job of talking about those. And then they're even getting together with other companies to share that coverage as well, so that the more and more sensors can come online.
So right now, what's the coverage or penetration of the Helium network?
I would say it's largely worldwide. I mean, I don't want to say that it covers 60% of the population of the Earth, but I would say it covers a large percentage of urban environments around the world. You can go to helium.com/explore and view wherever there's coverage. And then, you take my instance from just my roof that I can cover. Now I'm in a pretty flat area, next to some rivers, so it's pretty flat for quite a ways. In more hilly or mountainous area, you're not going to get that kind of coverage. But, you can still get very much square miles, tens of square miles of coverage from one little tower or antenna that you put up on top of your roof.
So you earn more money the greater the signal is in terms of coverage?
Yes and no. Sensors, once you get to the end game, the sensors usually, it is long range frequency. So yes, you get more tokens for the long range coverage. However, sometimes the sensors can't perform at that equally long range that your antenna at the top of your house can have. So,
well, fascinating. Talk a little bit about some of the real world applications of Helium.
Yeah, so I mentioned the dog collars. That's one of them. Just trackers of any kind. You might not think it's not really important to track the things that I own. I don't really care that much. Well, we're seeing headlines of even in car insurance, related to car insurance, with I think it's Hyundai and Kia. They have cars that are getting stolen. The newest models just have a vulnerability in them that you can exploit very easily, I guess, that car thieves can exploit. So if you had a tracker on there, and you live pretty much anywhere near an urban environment or suburban environment, you're going to be able to track that car for more than likely, as long as it stays suburban, you're fine. Even if it goes rural, you're going to know where it goes. And then if it goes from, say, Minneapolis to Kansas City, well, then you're going to know it's going to get picked up back in Kansas City and probably a couple points along the way as well because of that long range frequency. So that's just one potential use case of just tracking things. Think of pallets. There's a huge story actually in Texas, coming out of Texas the other day. That was really cool. Some thieves showed up to steal some hay bales, and they were equipped with, the hay bales were equipped with trackers. And so they had a geofence set up that as soon as they were detected that they were moved outside of that geofence, it alerted them. And of course they alerted the authorities, and the thieves were caught. And in drought conditions, that hay is very, very valuable. So that's a really unique story of just asset tracking. I'm hearing more and more examples of non-asset tracking. So one of the things that I'm working on personally to help out with is water quality report. So I mailer from the local county city government, and they had some research on there that they were putting out that most government does about water quality in the area. And it said that they were monitoring water quality in these wells for a certain number of things. And so I was really interested in the article, and I said, well, I would like to dive into this more. So I contacted them and I said, hey, how often are you monitoring these? And they're like, oh, we do it 1 to 3 times a year. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is drinking quality, like drinking water that we're monitoring quality. I was like, well, what if we had some sensors that we could put up and communicate this water quality more often? And they're like, well, that sounds awesome. We definitely be interested in that. And so we have put together some estimates of how much the sensors will cost, and then the data usage, and whether they want to use the Helium network or even their own private network. So water quality is another one.
But until you get the sensors up, you're not going to drink that water, I hope.
Well, we're drinking it already, right? So, but that's extra information. Another idea I had along the way was a sensor that could be in a car, and it could monitor for an occupied hot car alert. So, to know if not just my child, but any child gets into a car that I own, please alert the authorities. I don't want any, animal or child to come into a car and lose their life because of that. And it happens all the time. You see these stories. There was even a story lately of they were transporting some dogs for, I guess they were used in law enforcement training, and the AC went out on the truck that was carrying them. And so it was just sad because a bunch of the dogs lost their lives, and it could have been easily avoided by having both a temp sensor in the truck and then potentially some other heart rate sensors on the dogs or something like that. So there's a lot of applications that are out there that people are just getting creative about.
Well, since you've gotten involved in Helium, right? What have you seen change? What changes have happened?
The innovation. People are coming together from just disparate areas, or just all over the world. People are on this. I'm regularly talking to people from Australia, Amsterdam, just worldwide. That they're all excited about this and building things, anywhere from the actual sensor development to code changes on the UI of Helium's Explorer, to making code changes to how the network works fundamentally, whether, what blockchain it uses. They just completed a migration this year off of their own L1 to Solana. So that was another interesting thing. And the community is playing parts in this. There's very, very smart people, way smarter than I am, to collaborate on this and get it done. So when I get to use another one of my skill sets in the governance area is trying to help align people and get them going in a particular direction on these improvement proposals. So getting them to agree on what is the problem that we're trying to solve with this improvement proposal. So that's been fun as well. And plus, just getting together and just getting excited about all the applications of this technology.
Well, I've seen something called DPIN. What is DPIN?
DPIN is the term that is used for decentralized physical infrastructure networks. So if you think of infrastructure as it is today, so communication is just one aspect of it right now. There's also energy. There's roadways. It's always the common joke about who's going to pay for the roads, right? When it comes to like taxes and stuff. Well, what if you could actually measure and pay for and monitor not only the road quality that you're driving on, but then also if you're traveling that every single day, you could actually put usage towards, or potential tax dollars right to work, right where you need it, right where that pothole is. You could actually detect a lot of that information from this decentralized physical infrastructure networks that are being built, because the communication aspect is already it's a non-starter anymore. It's foundational. We've got it via Helium. And so there's all these different projects that are springing up around this idea of physical infrastructure that are really cool, novel, and interesting of what the implications are long term for us.
So what do you see the future as being with Helium?
Yeah, there's lots of cool things. So over the last year, they've been working on Helium Mobile, which is basically 5G communications, so that you could be able to augment existing coverage out there already. Say you live in a dead spot, you could just add a little node to the network and then have way better coverage than you do right now.
So you won't need towers?
I would say the future, you wouldn't need the towers, or maybe you could be a little bit more. You wouldn't need these really big towers that provide service for a lot of areas. When you mesh it, you actually get more fine-grained quality because the existing carriers, they had to be very pinpointed as to where they placed that equipment because it was very costly, right? And then there's land use and all that kind of stuff. And it was just basically placed for pretty much for profitability. I mean, when you think about it from a business sense, it made sense. Like, yeah, we realize that there's going to be a dead zone there, but we're covering this nearby city more so than that dead spot over there that's covering farmland, so no big deal. But to that farmer that lives in that dead spot, that actually means a lot. So to be able to deploy your own cell phone coverage is just awesome. So there's that. And then they're coming out with Helium Wi-Fi, which is the ability to have Wi-Fi networks. And the details still are not totally released on that yet. Some things I know, some things I don't know, and can speculate. And I tend to speculate a lot around Helium in the future. So I'm really excited for the things that are like way beyond the edges of. I get to actually think about things and like that my imagination has brought forth and think, oh, that's actually not too far away. We'll be able to do that soon.
It's cool. So if someone in our audience wanted to start to be a Helium point home, how much would it cost them to do that?
So there's a variety of miners out there today. There's a bunch that are probably available on eBay, but definitely buyer discretion is advised there. There are some mechanics that you can't just assume ownership anymore in this digital world. So to buy from a respected manufacturer, though, it's going to cost you about $100 to $200 to host a node in your own area, and you want to look also at Helium's Explorer map to see if there's not too dense a coverage. It doesn't make sense if you're living in an urban environment today to put up another node. It's just not going to be that rewarding for you. But if you live in areas that are next to areas that aren't covered or that are completely uncovered, then there's potentially a lot more that you could do and a lot more earnings that you could get, at least off the proof of coverage game. And then long term, there's, of course, the data transfer, which is the end game for sensors and how they propagate. So if you've got even your own, say a farmer wants to have some coverage and deploy these hay bale tracking sensors, then there's potential profit that you can make right there for these ideas. So you can get novel about this, is like with the ideas that you might have for solving needs locally.
That's cool. Okay. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Ed, thanks for giving me and the audience a great understanding of Helium, what it's been, where it's going, and a little bit more on the cost of it. Terrific learning experience. Really appreciated it. How can our listeners contact you, however, if they want to, learn more about Helium or talk to you about how they might start or, just become your disciple?
Sure, you can check it out on YouTube. That's my official YouTube channel. It's just at EdBallou1 on YouTube, and then I'm also at EdBallou on Twitter. You can reach out to me there.
Terrific. Thanks again. Don't miss out on our next episode of Technology, where we're going to discuss another cutting-edge technology, how it's being applied, and how it's changing the world. And don't forget your Always Find Technology podcast, easy for me to say, on Apple, Spotify, Google, and SoundCloud podcast. And also, please remember, if you need help with any size technology challenge, please contact Performix Business Solutions at performixbiz.com. I'm your host, Ken Umansky, and until we meet again on another technology podcast, keep innovating. Bye for now.